This is a British sovereign. Pretty excited about this one. This one is from 1911, as you can see on the reverse here. So on the front, we got George V, mustache game on point. And we can actually narrow this down to the second half of the year 1911 when this coin was minted, because George V became king in June of this year. So we know that it was minted after that. On the back is St. George astride a horse, and he's trampling a dragon. So in Catholicism, to become a saint, you must perform a miracle. And St. George's miracle was he killed a dragon. But not just any dragon. This dragon was, according to legend, holding a village hostage and demanding a tribute of money, which they paid. Dragons love money, apparently. That was not good enough for him over time, and then they started having to give human sacrifices to the dragon. And then that wasn't good enough for the dragon, and he demanded that a princess be sacrificed for him. Well, at that point, old Georgie was like, enough is enough. So he slew the dragon and rescued the princess. And that might be a theme you've heard in fantasy fiction, from D&D to Legend of Zelda to Super Mario Brothers. But Georgie did it first. 2,000 years ago, almost. Well, in reality, he didn't slay a dragon. Sorry, Catholics, because dragons aren't real. But St. George was real. George was a real person who lived in the 2nd to 3rd century AD. He was a Roman soldier, and that's why he's depicted with this kind of Roman getup. And I believe he did something that became greatly exaggerated over the years into him killing a dragon. And it's kind of weird, like the dragon depicted on the coin is pretty small, like it's being trampled underfoot by his horse. The dragon is smaller than the horse, which, it might, that's kind of like how these legends come to be. They could be, you have the legend and then you go back and do the investigation. It could be something like St. George stepped on a gecko and it became exaggerated, and now he's a dragon slayer. And they should make a movie about that. George steps on a gecko, the rumor mill goes wild, and by the end of the movie, George saved us all from Godzilla. And as the monarch, on the other side, George V. He was preceded by Edward VII, and he was succeeded by Edward VIII. So he was the meat in an Edward sandwich. Brand new sentence. And when I hold something like this coin that is over a century old, that has traveled through time and across 2 oceans to arrive in my hands, it's a sense of wonder. I'm like, who's owned it before me? How many owners has it had? Where has it been? Nowadays, people only collect these, but in 1911, when this was minted, this was absolutely used as currency and circulated. Was it used for groceries or was it used for private transactions? I remember The Hound of the Baskervilles, my favorite Sherlock Holmes novel. A great novel, and the movie starring Basil Rathbone, a Halloween staple in my household. And Sherlock Holmes summons a cab driver and grills him for info, and then pays him with a gold sovereign. One of these. It would have been minted a couple decades earlier in that particular story. But yeah, this coin is currently in Hawaii, where I live. Maybe it was here before. Maybe a salty sailor used it for a good night out. Maybe it was uttered in various ports of call throughout the world. And here it is. I wish it could talk. Fascinating piece of history. To put it in perspective of how old this is, what was going on in 1911? The President of the United States at that time was William Howard Taft. And he's one of those presidents that we tend to forget about. But he's also the only American to ever be both the president and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I don't think there'll ever be another one. In 1911, the U.S. Army adopted a brand new service pistol named for that year, the M1911. Kind of a perfect mousetrap as far as pistol platforms go. Maybe you've heard of it. People still carry it to this day. The Mexican Revolution was on. There were revolutions going on in the region known as China. Italy was at war with the Ottoman Empire and up to some shenanigans in North Africa. Vincent Price, Ronald Reagan, Lucille Ball, and Jean Harlow were all born in this year and have since all lived their lives and died. So it's really a piece of history. Well, that's all I have for this one. Cheerio.